The narrative opens with a princess of mankind called Hao Jingna, declaring that he will return shortly to enable an amazing marriage once he vanquishes the demon ruler. Crowned, he assures her not to panic since he is sure he would bring success for their race. By the next scene, he is already squarely facing the strongest foundation of the demons. Approaching it, he yells he wants to see them fight this attack. His whole group then charges for the Demon King. It had been 18 years since he enlisted in the human army, and now at last they were ready to demolish the strongest base of the demons. This was the last stage towards human reclaiming of all their territory. The protagonist says he will finish the thousands of years' struggle by hand. Claiming that this is the last triumph for humanity, he charges against the Demon King. Still, the creature questions him whether he is certain about that. Then the system alerts him about the risk. The devil declares that everyone will accompany him should he die and starts to bulge in his tummy. The hapless protagonist queries why the devil must be so poisonous. That causes a great explosion to destroy the surroundings. The system tells him he only 2 minutes left to live as the smoke starts to clear. It also honors him, nevertheless, for his leadership and for his commitment to the humanity. He gets reincarnation as a thank you for all he has done. The machine asks whether he wants to agree, and he clicks yes right away. Something like that would be refused by only an idiot. Then he hears a voice instructing him to get up since they are en route. He opens his eyes and understands he has been reincarnated. Rising, he whispers that the nasty Demon King assumed killing him would be simple, but just next to him are a gang of horned devils fixated on him. Looking around, the protagonist wonders why a lot of hideous devils like that are staring at him. Lady, an elderly demon, orders him to start moving since the Blue Union is approaching and they all will die. Approaching his face, the protagonist probes the elderly man about what he is talking about. Then he looks slowly at a mirror he spots close by. He has returned under the ranky demon name Gan Dongwo. Haunted, he wonders why he reincarnated as a demon in the first place. He phones the damn system and wants an explanation as to why the savior of humanity has been reincarnated as a dirty monster like this. The other demons stare bewilderedly. The system shows there was a little mistake during the reincarnation procedure and apologizes. He wants the system corrected, but it notes sadly that there is nothing that can be done. Frustrated, he snatches the system and orders to talk to the management to identify the person behind this mess. The machine then states it will endeavor to provide him chances to be reincarnated. A mission arises. Should he once more die, he can reincarnate as a human. Still, suicide is not a good option. Before his sight, the system vanishes. The demons around Gan Dongwo question if he has gone insane after waking up. Not to worry, the elderly man Lady advises them. He renders himself useless every time something terrible occurs. Dongwo, meantime, worries more about the human princess marrying someone else. Then Lao Meyer, a rank T mage, reports she detects the blue human on approach. Apart from their rank B commander, they have no chance against these foes. Using the escape path is the only way one will survive. Should the human catch them, they will undergo torturing. Originally Dongwo's companion, this blue human is now a monster. He thus naturally knows that he must locate the humans in order to die and reincarnate. He is headed toward the cave. What he believes he is doing, the demons ask? The protagonist argues running away won't fix anyone's concerns, even if the elderly man advises him to depart since it's crowded with people. He will purchase them as much time as he can to enable escape. Impressed as well, the others inquire whether this is the coward they have always known. Dongwo detects something abruptly. Above a magic circle, rocks began to fall. Looking, he finds that the single exit is totally barred. Little steps then start to approach. Saying they grew up together, the daughter of the Demon King and Level B Demon Lu Bingyi remarks, Dongwo already wants to kill this girl who refuses to let him die. She refuses to leave anyone behind at a time like this. Telling her to forget it, he gets ready to knock her flat. He punches the rock, but instead he loses health. Turning around, he calls her dumb and muses about the extent his hand hurts. Poor Bingi questions why she is under correction. Laity wonders how he dares to approach royalty like Wei. In meantime, Dongwo says they should never undervalue a man's will to give his life for others. Binji blushes, since she had never seen a manly and fearless youngster. The others begin to counter, though, that the crazy should let him die if he so desires. Everybody else has to flee after all. Claiming to be a brave demon, Dongwo claims all they have been doing is hiding and wonders what is so terrible about humans. He will die with dignity, therefore ensuring everyone's safety. Dongwo fervently encourages the group to believe this garbage, and they are left amazed. The issue is Bingi is currently all emotional. Laody believes because the lad appears so committed, it would be preferable to let him leave. Dongwo then joyfully walks off, and certainly he soon runs across the people. Calling them a bunch of weak troops and daring anyone bold enough to kill him, he opens his arms wide and toos them to come at him. Hurrying toward him, the people yell about how they recently came onto a free target. Thinking he will at last be reincarnated and back to being human, Dongwo is ecstatic. But an arrow abruptly flies and strikes one of the people in the breast. Panic strikes right away as the people cry, "It's a trap." Rising to rank BGO1, Laody has entered an exalted condition. He says he felt the excitement of battle 3 years ago, much as he did battling beside the Demon King. According to the system, in an emotionally heightened state, demons might momentarily experience a rush of power. Poor Dongwo is depressed. Laody then says that the absence of opposition has let people keep attacking demon territory ever since the death of the Demon King. The people kept grabbing everything since the demons kept fleeing away and thought they were weak. Then he tells Dongwo he is quite right this time. Declaring today the demon race will resist, Bingi steps forth. While Dongwo stands still wondering why these demons are becoming so motivated, the Blue Union troops find what's happening confusing. Bingi suddenly also goes into an elevated state and climbs to rank A. She says today, no devil will be left behind. The people are scared as there was no expected ranking. A demon existing here. Bingi starts to explode a cosmic tribulation fire. She kills the people savagely, and at the next instant a large hole opens out. The once might strong Blue Union has been destroyed. Dongwo levels up 10 times at once instead of 1, therefore worsening his situation. He also accumulates a heap of objects. Crying, the miserable man falls to the ground and says he has wanted death ever since his first day as a demon. The action moves to Yu and the Hu people's capital city. Though naming them Horn is a bit meaningless, a horned demon named Kyanduko is asked about the botch scheme, so she is really relevant. Another demon donning glasses answers the royal figure, therefore verifying the failure of the strategy. The initial plan had been to wait for the ideal moment when the Blue Union surrounded Her Majesty totally. Master Cheng Wujin would lead the demon army to remarkably save her at that very moment. To guarantee she fell for him, he would stand above the human bodies and bring her back by the arm. But Bingi attained an exalted state and destroyed the Blue Union, therefore the scheme failed totally. Turning then to the demon on the throne, Kyanduko asks the general what they ought to do right now. Huan, the king, says all military might still resides in his hands. Under the 3 great demon orders' power, she will be compelled to wed his son. He gives his army orders to march the next day and formally propose marriage. That garbage of winning her love is a total waste of time. Bingi is considering the protagonist at that same moment, remembering his manliness in a circumstance this risky. Saying she wishes to give Lao Meyer a fair reward, she orders her to bring Dongluo. Lao Meyer imagines the princess has something serious in mind, therefore wondering what kind of reward this may be. She orders Bingi to hold off until she picks out the lad. Dongluo is occupied drinking himself ridiculous in meantime. Given his 120 points, the system recommends him to start using them. Dongluo, however, curses the system and refuses to spend anything. Looking at himself, he sees he is currently a ranky demon. Although he is still somewhat easy to kill, the challenge is locating a human capable of doing it. Lao Meyer shows up out of nowhere telling him Her Majesty is hunting for the drunkard. Dongluo, nevertheless, is adamant on testing something with her first. She probes why he's drunk so much, but before she can respond, he pulls her away, claiming she's about to learn. He says he need her help to die and runs toward a fire, never expecting that this little man could be so audacious. She believes he is requesting she kill him in some unusual manner, declaring that it's not the correct time since, as of right now, he belongs to Her Majesty. She quickly renders him comatose. Donglu finds himself before Bingyi some later, who gives him permission to roam the palace. He also inherits the Slayer's set, which will help him to become a real hero. Stunned, Lao Meyer discovers Bingyi has just presented the armor of a former demon king as a gift. Donglu questions why he has been handed such an overpowered collection after looking over the set consisting of rare objects. Dongluo just walks away, stating he's leaving knowing she wouldn't accept that present. With her beautiful body, Bingyi finds it shocking that the lad seems not impressed. Still, several others are watching him as he is walking away. Furious that Dongluo got the set merely for what he did that day, an elderly man called Wei Ming, such a gift should only be granted to a demon who shows power to the world, he adds. Hence, it is reckless to do otherwise. Wei Ming notes that this deed makes him sympathize with the man. Hence he seems to be an ally of the king overall. Dongluo approaches at that instant and yells at the elderly guy, who is already aching to kill this shameless child who dares to push his luck. Dongluo, instead, extends his hand and says the set will remain with him. Startled, Wei Ming probes why he would be giving it up. Dongluo just advises him to retain it. He is trying to die, and a set like this would only complicate his intentions. Then he says it was Her Majesty who asked him to turn it over as a small thank you for all Wei Ming had done for the city. Donglu bolts off, waving farewell before Wei Ming can reply. Confused, Wei Ming remains there till he yells to the sky, calling himself ashamed for even contemplating violating her dignity. Dongluo is sitting on a stairway later, understanding nobody here is ready to harm him. Then he hears someone close remarking the young master has at last returned. The man bends to tell him the general has decided to start operations tomorrow. Soldiers will be sent to propose marriage between him and the princess. Everyone who objects will be slaughtered right away. Dongluo becomes interested in this. Many people are chatting in the kingdom conference hall the following day, but Dongluo finds it dull and wishes they could get to the crucial point. Chinduko then confronts Her Highness, stating that for 3 years the people have been withdrawing even farther and incapable even of capturing the city. Bingyi answers, saying the general deserves a reward as his activities are really outstanding and he is in charge of numerous successes. Ku responds then that he has a favor to ask if Her Highness really reflects what she says. He calls his son Wujin and asks her bless him marriage-wise. They've grown up together all these time, he notes. Though apparently sluggish on the uptake, Bingyi observes they haven't seen each other in 3 years and queries Wujin's intended marriage partner. Hu says then that he wants her to wed Wujin. Since they hardly get along, she is startled and wonders what he is talking about. Generally speaking, though, that's meaningless. A woman is leading the city of Yun for the first time in thousands of years, and stories of the kingdom's eroding power are getting about. Should she get to the throne by herself, things will only grow worse. But by marriage to Wujin, she could readily silence everyone. The individuals behind him nod, concurs that it makes logical. Apart from that, young Master Wujin would be a fantastic fit, since he is rather attractive. Lebedi, however, is enraged and calls the whole repulsive for elevating her dignity in such a way. Bingyi feels divided and not sure how to react. Dongwu notes the chance he has been waiting for. He moves forward and the elderly man asks where he is headed. Dongwu says Bingyi shouldn't allow threats determine her choices after grabbing her arm. Everybody has the right to make decisions that would make their life most joyful. Flustered, Bingyi finds no idea what to say. Dongwu then probes the others about how they could be so brazenly pushing something like this. Huiming then notes him as the same lad who dropped off the armor yesterday. Trying to apologize, Bingyi says she rejects the proposal. Hu stops, though, saying he has toiled non-stop for this empire, and all he requests today is a reward. She should give her choice much thought, he counsels. Lottie wonders whether the general is seeking to have her abdicated the throne this manner and pulls his bow. Huiming also intervenes, cautions everyone to walk lightly. Huan says he has all the military might in this territory, though, and queries whether they are really ready to launch a war. Bingi urges everyone to stop, drops her head, and states she agrees with the general's statements. Dongwu, however, starts laughing uncontrollably. Bingi, the legitimate heir to the throne, claims more of it than anybody else, he continues. Thus she should fight for it. Turning to Huo, he probes why everyone finds him so frightening. The general questions who this child is and uses the usual procedures. Dongwu spits in his face, challenging him to be only a low-ranking general of the former demon king and wondering why he had such military might. Ultimately, he is merely a lackey, hence his acting so haughtily is illogical. While patting the fool's face. To top it off, Dongwu says Bingi is the most attractive person in the kingdom, in addition to the most strong and capable. How, therefore, could that odd offspring of his ever deserve her? The furious general orders Dongwu to close and questions who in the world would be deserving of her, if not his son, a brilliant soldier. Dongwu says cheekily that he is. 2 days ago in the cave they connected on a profound level after all. Dongwu is sure the damned commander will kill him at last now. Lottie seems crushed, but Mei Wei murmurs she knew this would happen. The audience starts murmurs, suggesting Dongwu was the first to rebel against the Blue Yumian invasion. Bingi, meantime, is sensitive and inspired by Dongwu's willingness to go great distances. Generally, though, one wonders if Dongwu really wants to die that badly. Dongwu does, of course, gesture at his neck and advise that he should just strike there if the general has guts. Otherwise, Dongwu not only publicly embarrassed him but also degraded the dignity of Her Majesty. Thus, he'll lose his head. General says he will give Dongwu's wish for all these heinous sins, therefore activating a strong technique. His fist radiates and everyone starts to run away. He stretches his arm back quickly and punches Dongwu squarely in the chest. Wei Ming sprints ahead yelling that it's too late now. Dongwu cheers and orders Hao Jingna to wait for him. At last he will see her again. The whole thing bursts. As everyone shocks, flames flare. But Wu Jin seems perplexed. Wu Jin questions how someone could have sprung from the anarchy. Dongwu had got a token from the military order of the Demon King. This token caused him to climb 40 levels right away and develop passive ability. His defense rises 5-fold when his health falls below 30%. Worse, every 15 attacks he gets are mirrored back and cause vital damage. The onlookers whisper that only Her Majesty can award such a token. To the best of knowledge, only the Demon King himself could grant such a boon. As it happens, Bingi was the one handing Dongwu the token. She says Woan received the token from her grandfather and father because of his lifetime and death loyalty. But now she chose to assign it to Dongwu, therefore providing him the authority to head the demon army as general. Woan seems not too impressed, since he assumes nobody would dare betray him. Looking about the room, he waits to be challenged. Wei Ming, however, moves forward to honor Dongwu as the new general. Lottie chooses to do the same, thinking it would be best if Wei Ming backed him. Woan's troops start identifying Dongwu as the new commander not too long later. Nobody wanted to follow anyone else save the supporters of the queen. Everyone but Dongwu finds this pleasing. The sequence of events irritates him. Huowen admits, left without options, that she trusts Dongwu since she gave him the military order emblem. He wonders, nevertheless, how a weak soldier will command a whole army. Dongwu will have to lead a team over the ancient demon cavern, a survival challenge only for those judged worthy by the kings of old, to prove himself. Since none of anyone has survived the cavern the past 100 years, the elderly yell at Huowen, calling the test ludicrous. Bingmi agrees, noting that everyone who there dies, hence the site is regarded as banned. Dongwu's eyes, though, flash with enthusiasm. A cave from which nobody has survived in 100 years? Perfect. The others chuckled generally, calling them all cowards. Dongwu asks where this ancient demon cavern is. He's ready to go now, raising his hand to concur generally. During the Great Crisis 200 years ago, the Demon King gave his life to save his people, therefore closing the remaining demonic element in the cavern for the next king to claim. Since then, no demon has been able to pass the test though. Wai Ming says that 2 individuals minimum are needed to enter the cavern. Anyone else would dare accompany Dongwu? Among themselves, the troops whisper, wondering who's insane enough to provide a volunteer. According generally, Dongwu should locate a companion if he wants to take the test. At that point, someone raises their hand. Woojin here. Demanding to know when he first began making his own judgments, his father smashes him across the face. Woojin answers coolly though, asking whether his father believes he is less than. The troops mutter that someone like Woojin, the future of his species, shouldn't gamble his life. Woojin maintains, however, that only one approved by the ancients can inherit the king's power, and that he should be the new demon king. Though his father seems unhappy, the decision is taken. Duko compliments Woojin on his decision the following day. Dongwu seems so feeble, hence he advises that this could be a chance to murder him in the caves. Woojin starts straightening his hair out of nowhere, declaring he knows exactly what he's doing. Mayor advises Dongwu simultaneously that Woojin is egotistical and that he should exercise caution. Dongwu, though, is happy as Woojin's presence raises his death risk. Wei Ming shows up out of nowhere, addressing Dongwu as general and handing him the finest buff and healing potion in the realm. Dongwu thanks him, but he seems clearly dissatisfied about it. Everybody soon gathers at the entrance of the old demon grotto. When asked whether they are ready, Binji, standing strong and forceful, tells Dongwu he has to endure. Woojin looks ahead, announcing that the next demon king of this area is going to be born. The formation activates and the golden circle vanishes, carrying both of them with it. Dongwu opens the task, Test of the Ancestors inside the grotto. Already they are being watched by invisible rank D monsters. Woojin remarks he finds it impossible to picture the kinds of monsters on this planet. Dongwu remembers he should be careful since Meyer cautioned him about Woojin's extreme treachery. Announcing that he is merely sporting a white armor set, he opens his arms widely, implying rather poor defense statistics. Confused, Woojin wonders why Dongwu is showing himself in this manner when they neither know their foes. Dongwu is waiting impatiently for Woojin to stab him in the back, something she is ignorant of. Dongwu gets thrilled as Woojin calls for a red blade, thinking his moment at last has arrived. Someone yells, "Flower!" out of nowhere as something rushes by Dongwu. A creature shows up, then in the next second it has already been cut in half. Woojin's amazing potential perplexes Dongwu, but before he can react, a swarm of creatures starts attacking them. Woojin reaches forward and calls forth again another bloom. He lets a flutter of petals fly into the air as the monsters get close. A quick surge of energy from his palms produces innumerable slashes that shreds the things to bits. Woojin notes it's remarkable Dongwu had previously found those soul bats. It was a brilliant tactic to use himself as bait to attract every beast and then sweep them all at once. Woojin cautions him, nevertheless, not to view them as equals based alone on anything like that. Dongwu agrees easily since he understands he is far from Woojin's amazing degree. Not one to be modest, Woojin says, naturally. Woojin releases Annihilation Slash and turns on the blade of the flower, so changing the situation. Dongwu is perplexed. This guy was supposed to knife him in the back, but Woojin is so fierce that he's racing ahead and killing every monster instead. Worse, Woojin doesn't stop killing the creatures, hence they all concentrate on him, and Dongwu is not at any risk at all. Dongwu is resolved, nevertheless, to finally get the attention of every monster toward himself. Knowing he has 408 points to spend, he questions if he could contribute to this strategy using them. Later, Woojin notes they had arrived at the cavern's lowest point per the map. Dongwu hasn't yet killed a single creature, which is strange. Though Wujin finds it hard to believe, Dongwu might be simply a weakling copying his experience. The ground starts to shudder suddenly. The dungeon loads and a mission shows up. Attend to the messengers of the Demon King. With a 20-minute time constraint, this is a highly challenging task. Surrounding them, a swarm of monsters forms. The expression of Wujin changes right away. He turns on his floral ability and launches it toward one of the beasts, but it passes right through. The creature launches a laser into the heavens, opening its arms. Emikibe slams down on Wujin. Though Wujin lives, the explosion is really large. Still, another onslaught from inside the flames interrupts his retreat. Dongwu, meanwhile, is delighted. He has set all 480 points into strength, therefore compromising his defense to the very minimal. This allows him to concentrate every creature on himself with just one strike. Struggling, Wujin tells himself Dongwu is obviously not equal to him in this world. Dongwu is obviously feeble today. Wujin releases his best move, sending the monsters under a thorn's rain, but nothing occurs. Approaching the biggest being, Wujin orders its death. The monster stays virtually whole, with 90% of its protection still in place, while the thorns buried in the ground erupt. Wujin feels lost. The beast is basically impervious since he used his last trick. It strikes back with purple energy. Wujin finds himself surrounded as everything gathers. Dongwu leisurely walks in front of us meanwhile. Slinking behind the enormous behemoth, he gets ready for a surprise strike. With a strong strike, the creature's body opens out like a gaping hole. Every other monster looks straight at Dongwu, throwing Wujin aside and racing for him. Dongwu finds great surprise in his own strength now. 480 points in strength never seemed like such a useful tool. Wujin, on the other hand, is perplexed and deduces that the monster must have a weakness on its rear. At last, he finds sense. Dongwu had not been assaulting because he observed early on that he was purposefully generating the ideal opening. Dongwu gets a system alert now, surrounded by creatures. You attract all kind of life. Dongwu smiles boldly, his arms crossed. At last his plan has paid off. He is now the only target for the monster. Dongwu is sure one of the rank of animals will kill him. One jumps at him. He, mocking it with his finger, gestures to come at him. He throws wide his arms in celebration. At last he will revert to humanity. But a bloom shows up behind the monster as he is about to strike. Wujin sets the piercing petal shift in motion. Dongwu is left amazed when Wujin kills the beast and lets the remains drop to the ground. Only 3 messengers stayed. Dongwu is depressed. Wujin says he appreciated Dongwu's approach of attracting the enemy's notice. Wujin had just caused major damage, hence the animals pay attention back to him. Dongwu, pulling his hair out, questions what this man is talking about, had worked so hard to be the focus of every monster. Wujin bolts, and Dongwu follows after him, screaming that he is not allowing this man to die now. Dongwu punches another creature, producing a large ground hole. He opens his arms widely and says the buff is right now with him. Declaring himself as the ideal target, he sticks his tongue out at the beasts and toos them to attack. Still with a haughty smile, he waits. Wujin does, of course, strike from behind once more. Dongwu yells at the beast, turning its attention away from escape. His next punch sadly totally runs out the creature's health bar. There's just one messenger left now. Dongwu runs for it, begging, "For the love of God, strikes me already." Rising its blade, the beast points it at him. Dongwu beams, eager to at last meet his death. But another peal from behind slices the beast apart before the attack can land. All adversaries have been vanquished. The remains lie on the ground. Wujin tells Dongwu his fighting reflexes are quite amazing. He acknowledges he didn't expect them to cooperate that effectively. Dongwu is incensed though. In the first place, he never wanted teamwork. Though he admits he doesn't typically say things like this, Wujin, attempting to be polite, notes Dongwu is strong, deserving, even, to challenge for the greatest glory in the world alongside him. The ground starts to vibrate suddenly. A voice echoes, declaring that it has been centuries since anyone ventured inside this cavern. According to the voice, no fresh prodigy will have the bravery to contest Demon King's throne. Both of them are blinded by a burst of light, and a huge blue dragon shows up to celebrate their exam passing. But the dragon says the true test starts right now. One of them can leave the cavern alive only. 10 minutes allow them to fight to the death. The survivor will receive the Demon King title. Should they object, both will pass away at the hand of the dragon. Clearly disturbed, Woojin asks why they have to fight each other till the very grave. Hesitates, unsure. He cannot determine Dongwoo's actual might even as the demon race's destiny seems assured. Dongwoo is ecstatic meanwhile, yelling that God has bestowed upon him a gift. At last, the ideal chance for death has presented itself. Seeing Dongwoo take off his shirt, Woojin believes his opponent is quite driven and sets out not to lose. Woojin gets ready for fight, as Dongwoo keeps undressing and loses 50 defensive points throwing off his armor. Dongwoo yells for Woojin to hurry up and attack him in the chest to seize the Demon King's title while standing in just shorts and his dimensional backpack. "Just strike me already," Dongwoo says. "One attack will make you the strongest generation has produced." Woojin, though, raised questions. Dongwoo would agree to visit this location and now, just a step away from claiming the title. Why? Want to quit? It makes no sense. Frustrated, Dongwoo whispers to himself about how obstinate this man is, then yells once again for Woojin to claim the reward already. Woojin says you have gained the confidence of Her Majesty, military might, and great strength after laying his blade at Dongwoo's neck. You've been eliminating rank-a-plus monsters even with regular assaults. Should we fight seriously? I might not even prevail. Why then are you seeking to submit? Dongwoo says the Hu family corresponds with the city of Yun. For years, General Hu has followed the king's directions and given his all for this area. While Dongwoo is merely a lucky youngster whose life does not match that of a commander and his prodigy son, he is the real hero of the land. Dongwoo insists he has to die here for the benefit of the demon race. Woojin lowers his head, remembering what his mother said that he should grow up to be a guy with a golden heart. He understands that only if the demon race comes together will they become really strong. Deactivating his blade, Woojin acknowledges he feels ashamed. The real heart of gold is the youngster before him, ready to give his life for the evil race. Woojin had reached this grotto with intention of killing Dongwoo from behind. Admittedly, he had put the title of Demon King higher than the benefit of the demon race. The dragon breaks off to tell them they only have 8 minutes left before both would die. Screaming, Dongwoo demands to know why Woojin hasn't killed him yet. Woojin adds coolly, "The Demon King declared we would both die in 10 minutes. I desperately want to try something different in the interim." Woojin channels power into a large, scattering bloom technique by bringing his palms together. As the dragon observes, the energy starts to spread over the cavern. The whole cavern is consumed in a flash explosion. Demanding to know how they dare try to cross the barrier, the dragon roars. 8 minutes have passed. Now, in an exalted state, Woojin has progressed from level A to rank AGA1. Turning to Dongwoo, he asks what he would advise about teaming to fight the dragon. Dongwoo comes out laughing though, saying they are exaggerating themselves. Woojin boldly says he now feels whole with authority. The man turned on another surge, quadrupling his power and double several other qualities. Dongwoo murmurs from a distance that this will be problematic. He finds dying to be getting more difficult. Woojin starts an illusion technique by charging the boss. But the supervisor fires a laser straight at his skull, apparently dissolving him. Still, wait no, it was simply an illusion. Woojin shows up behind and causes 150 damage. Regretfully, the manager has 99,000 HP. Not daunted, Woojin grips the ceiling and boasts of his fortitude before starting another attack. He avoids a laser and lets off a flurry of slashes instead. The issue is that every hit barely affects the boss's huge HP pool, just 220 or 100 damage. Woojin grabs the Demon King's attention effectively even with the little damage. Suddenly, Woojin finds herself surrounded in a huge cloud of smoke. Confoundedly looking around, he is hit in the face by the boss's tail. The impact sends him flying, and he lands exactly next to Dongwu. Dongwu is afraid now. Wujian might inherit the Demon King title should he die. With its head raised, the huge dragon gets ready for assault. Dongwu's square in the breast comes under explosion impact. Attacks abound while Wujian simply stands there observing. Dongwu lowers to his knees as his HP reduces to 1400. Furious, Wujian finds great inspiration in Dongwu's bravery in stopping what would have been a lethal strike aimed for him. Wujian instantly throws a potion he pulled from his pocket, which restores 10,000 HP Dongwu. Too late, Dongwu stares at his HP bar and turns to curse Wujian. Wujian is making resistance and rejuvenation medicines already. Dongwu receives a shower of potions that enhances all of his qualities. Reluctantly, Dongwu praises him while still standing now completely polished. But Wujian wastes no time, sprinting laser-like at the supervisor. Wujian closes in on the face of the boss, clutching his green energy glowing fist. Wujian lands a sequence of punches teleporting from below to above. But the manager uses a technique to paralyze him, therefore Wujian becomes vulnerable for attack. Dongwu sprints in from behind just as the boss is ready to strike. Tumbling before Wujian, he says, "I'll block this." He follows another laser exactly to the stomach. He's delighted when his HP starts to drop until Wujian tosses another potion at him, repairing 5,000 HP. Furious, Dongwu begs at Wujian to stop throwing potions. But Wujian merely laughs and replies, "Don't worry, my friend, I always have your back." They keep battling the Demon King in the grotto together until the boss's HP bar at last drops half. Wujian, stooping, notes they might really win at this pace. The system alerts them, nevertheless, that Lake's Return, a rank SSS ability that regenerates 100,000 HP every minute, has set off the boss's passive ability at half HP. Stunned, Wujian says, "This makes no sense." They couldn't outpace the regeneration even if they assaulted constantly. Saying they're far too feeble and it's ridiculous they assume they could slay a deity, the boss twos them. The boss damages both of them greatly with a loud roar. The noise brings many debuts, including Venom, which causes their health to steadily drop. Both fighters go to their knees. Dongwu is almost face down, and Wujian uses a one-time survival ability to keep from death. He finds it difficult to stand, but their potions are totally run out. Rising to make a last attack, the boss raises his head. Although Dongwu claims they haven't lost yet, both warriors know they have. Wujian can finish the challenge, he says, even long after he passes away. Dongwu tells Wujian to take over as Demon King by putting a hand on her shoulder. Uncertain, Wujian wonders what he means. Dongwu catches Wujian by the collar as the dragon launches its last attack and tosses him far, yelling for the demon's future. Mid-air, Wujian sees helplessly Dongwu standing his ground. Dongwu briefly believes that for a demon, Wujian is not all that horrible. Dongwu vaporizes as the onslaught envelops him. A golden light falls from the heavens sometime later upon Wujian. The dragon notes his passing of the ancestors' test. It says that the ancestors gave their life in the past in order to guard the evil race, awaiting someone deserving to seize the most valuable ability locked beneath the demon grotto. The great monarch shut it. Every demon who passed the test turned out to be fighting each other for more than 200 years, dying themselves in the process. One cannot be competent to be king if one murders another. Only Wujian and Dongwu, who stayed with each other until the very last, had really withstood the test together. Wujian gains reputation as a strong man deserving of the inheritance of the Demon King. The dragon says the heir of the Demon King has to be brave enough to defend others without regard to death. Dongwu is, of course, posthumously crowned monarch acknowledged by the ancestors. He levels 10 times, accumulates 5 million experience points, and unlocks an SSS ability capable of regenerating 100,000 HP every minute. Dongwu also gets the title Demon King, which grants many other qualities and renders him invisible. The scene changes to the outside world, in which the viewers are stunned. News gets out that the demon cavern has been cleaned. Dongwu says the prophecy might really come true. A demon king who will bring the demon clans back together could rise in this generation. Emotional, Bingi comments that among the greatest demons to have ever lived, Lu Yun was the last true demon king. Only seldom every few centuries does a real ruler show up. They have a different aura than any other demon. Hua Wen stands boldly saying he always thought his son will be the pride of the heavens. It followed naturally. His son would be crowned king, he reasoned. Wai Ming pauses, then says it wasn't your son who ascended the throne. General Dongwu answered. The eyes of the audience enlarge in incredulity. Dongwu is in a quiet area chatting to a demoness meantime. She says he's too young for that, even as he is requesting more drinks. Dongwu seems barren. Dying has become impossible with his new capacity to rebuild 100,000 HP every minute. Saying he cannot go back to his own world now, he laments. He dreamed of being with someone, Haolin, but she was gone from past. Someone is observing him from the shadows as he crawls in muck. Dongwu turns to see, but the man vanishes. The scene changes to show a green-haired female surreptitiously peering at him again. Dongwu shows immediately after her the next instant, wondering why the child is trailing him. Startled, she falls back, tears in her eyes, adamant that she is not afraid and he is not terrifying. The youngster calls herself Tan Zhao, a Tier D nuclear demon. Uninterested, Dongwu asks why she is trailing him. She stands and tensely says she wants him to go to Bailing Cavern with her. Another person walks up before Dongwu can answer, and Tan Zhao describes her circumstances. She had 3 wishes, but she had to visit Bailing Cavern to pick them. The young child says she wants to explore the cavern, but she isn't let as she hasn't completely changed into an adult demon. Suddenly an elderly beggar yells in Dongwu's ear, alerting her that it is obviously a hoax. Who would have such belief? Said the beggar is. But Dongwu, intrigued, probes Tan Zhao about whether this desire thing is real. He is keen to discover a spring of wishes for himself after learning of one in the demon world. Tan Zhao comforts him, saying she had to pass many tests and pay $50,000 to qualify for this chance. The beggar laughs and advises both of them to stop falling for such blatantly dishonest techniques. But Tan Zhao becomes upset out of nowhere and says this is her final opportunity. Working non-stop at the Bailing Club, she earned that money as her mother only has 1 month to live and her heart is deteriorating. She is quite desperate to save her. Dongwu shocks the beggar by accepting on one condition, even though his muttering would only fit a fool. She owes him one of her wishes. He says either I choose to forfeit all these overpowered skills or reincarnate as a human. Overjoyed, Chang Xiao promises him 2 wishes should he assist her. Frustrated, the beggar stumbles away saying these 2 lunatics deserve each other. The beggar remembers as he goes that Bailing Cavern is said to have a black market organization that has lately been rather active. The scenario moves to Dongwu and Tan Zhao standing before the gate of the cavern. Dongwu finishes the scan and shows the invitation, therefore opening the door. Someone says, the fish grabbed the bait as they were walking down the hall. A devil orders the door closed in another room, therefore confining them inside. A blue-worn demon warns, not too harsh blows could cause death. Doors start to drop right in front of Dongwu and Tan Zhao. Behind them jumps forward a man with a blazing hand to punch. Tan Zhao issues Dongwu a cautious warning. The blow falls exactly on Dongwu, but his passive ability kicks in to undo all damage. He barely flinches. Taken aback, the assailant finds Dongwu's cool headiness disturbing. The protagonist notes he is here to fulfill desires and then spots a menacing-looking woman in the backdrop. Dongwu starts to wonder whether they arrived at the correct location. The blue-worn demon chuckles, jeers at his naive belief in such infant fairy tales. Their actual identity as the biggest human trafficking outfit in the Yun Dominion comes clear. Their scheme to grant wishes was only a means of luring victims into the cavern, where they might be seized and sold. Following the demon's sneers might help you to leave here with all your limbs intact. Be a good dog then, and know your circumstances. One demon orders Dongwu to turn in with slaps across the face. But the monster is flown by a careless punch from Dongwu, burying himself into the ceiling before anyone can grasp what is occurring. Dongwu asks, sighing, "How many times is this going to happen? One disappointment after another has followed me since I reborn." Understanding Dongwu's might, the devils get ready for battle and declare, "This child is dangerous." Machinery suddenly turns on, and the demons equip themselves with sophisticated battle gear that looks like Power Rangers in rank B+ armor. One of them yells and shows him the real peril this planet poses. 3 demons screaming they will finish him off leap toward Dongwu. Dongwu, who drank too much before, is becoming somewhat emotional in meantime. Dongwu mumbles that lately life has been rather demanding. He fails every time he gets near to success. Right now he is quite annoyed and irritated. Declaring he's bored of all, he punches the ground. The effect generates a great shockwave that throws everyone across the room and breaks their armor. Dongwu is wailing his heart out in meantime. Now kneeling, the devils pray to be let go and seek pardon. One of them admits they didn't love performing such things, and they were driven into this state. Hearing this, Dongwu wants to know the strong men behind this effort. The demon pinned under his foot exposes behind them the most strong person in the Yun Dominion. Dongwu will definitely be killed, he says, once the general gets here. Dongwu questions the possible identity of this leader. An enormous energy suddenly radiates from the door. The demon under his foot starts to celebrate, yelling, "The general is here, you're finished." Dongwu turns around to find someone at the door demanding, "Are you the one starting all this disturbance?" The group leader walks forward. Dongwu squints and quips, "Why does it seem like Duko's obese cousin is heading these morons?" Seeking to contain his voice and show respect, a servant yells at Dongwu, questioning whether he knows who he is speaking to. Declaring his name as Dupeng, the leader assures us he is indeed Yuko's brother. "You useless fools," Dupeng chastises his staff. "Let me slip with my name like that? Unacceptable." The servant insists he would never purposefully expose such material and grovels. Dupeng dismisses him, nevertheless, murmuring about inadequacy. Declaring he knows too much and must die, he then approaches Dongwu. Unassuming, Dongwu notes that Dupeng seems powerful and expresses delight to see his potential. Smoking, he tells Dupeng, "I'll give you 10 minutes to try to murder me. Should you be unable, I will not be so forgiving." Dongwu's audacity and Dupeng's scowls perplex the surrounding devils over what stupidity is. About 10 minutes, this is. Getting ready his fist, he claims he will put Dongwu's head on the ground in 1 second. The servant yells, saying this is the strongest attack the general could launch. Pulling back his fist, Dupeng strikes Dongwu with full force, inflicting 500 damage. Dongwu repairs 800 HP with his passive regeneration in a matter of seconds, though. Dongwu is there smirking with a full health bar, which baffles Dupeng. Dongwu teases, "That didn't seem to work. Perhaps experiment with a unique move." Furious, Dupeng murmurs that he never would have expected this loser to be able. Remind him that the 10 minutes are running short, and Dongwu exhorts him to stop wasting time. Now furious, Dupeng strikes Dongwu's face 8 times in succession with a combination of punches. Though the boy's body is momentarily knocked to the ground, his health bar stays whole. Weary, Dupeng pauses to gather his breath. Lying on the ground, Dongwu glances up and asks cynically, "Why would you stop? Already getting weary?" His taunting disturbs Dupeng even more, and the general leaps into the air ready for a meteor attack. Though it immediately targets Dongwu, the assault triggers his counterattack passive capability. Dupeng is flung flying with a great shockwave and sustains 2,800 facial injuries. Staggering back, he tries to understand what is occurring by staring at Dongwu in incredulity. At last understanding Dongwu's identity, the servant whispers that the pervert responsible for disturbance at the castle is himself. He visited the ancestral cave. His state of life is what? Dupeng says he now remembers Dongwu and sneers after wiping his face. You are merely a dirty monster who got this far depending on women. Conversely, I am an asterisk A-class demon with 2 demon hearts, the future clan commander. As Dupeng claims, a set of A-class tools falls from above automatically arming Dongwu. Now driven on, the lad challenges Dupeng to come at him once more. Rising his palm to the heavens, Dupeng calls for his power and charges Dongwu. With 40 to 50 damage every strike, his punches land often. Still, the damage counts are far too low for Dongwu's passive rejuvenation. Then Dupeng is curled across the room collecting 3,000, 2,000, and 10,000 damage as Dongwu's passive counterattacks activate several times. His HP bar runs fast till a last hit of 8,400 leaves him almost dead. The servant shouts out for the general as she falls to the ground, collapsed like a sack of potatoes. Once his own survival passive activates, Dupeng's life is spared once, but he is left confused. Getting to his feet, Dupeng asks, "Why are you still standing there with a full health bar?" Dongwu smiles and says, "Your 10 minutes are running out. Is that all you have?" Dupeng lowers to ask for pardon from his knees. He asks, "Please not hurt me." Dongwu says softly, "I'll give you anything you want. I only want someone that can murder me." Dupeng stares at him in astonishment, murmurs, "That is not conceivable. Nobody ought to have something like that." "Who are you?" Someone at the doorway yells out for the general before Dongwu can respond. It is Duko who watches the incident coldly. When the servant asks Duko to save his brother, Duko responds, "He brought this upon himself." So be it if Dongwu wants to kill him. Duko says he's sorry. He let things go out of hand and caused this. Dongwu ignores him, responds, "Whatever, I don't even care about that overweight guy's life," as he kicks a stone and murmurs about everyone's weakness. He pauses unexpectedly, though, remembering something. Turning back, he queries Dupeng, "Did you truly say you would provide me anything I might want?" Approaching with narrowed eyes, he questions whether Dupeng indeed possesses 2 demon hearts. Panicked, Dupeng rejects it, says it ridiculous, and argues he would never have such a thing. The scene moves to a hospital, where Dupeng is sprawled out on a gurney imploring his brother Duku for aid, but the doctors are getting ready the anesthesia, so reassure him, "Don't worry. With 2 hearts, you won't miss one." Outside the hospital, Tang Jiao thanks Dongwu extensively, saying her mother would have perished without him. Dongwu, meanwhile, is preoccupied and impatiently wondering what Howlin is doing at this moment and when his dream will come true. Duko is talking with his subordinate about the Demon Kingdom's energy stores meantime. Duko stresses the need of this vitality since it is the only means the young Dominion can fight the already advanced humans. Scene cuts to a fleet of spaceships swooping above a base. Ordering the troops to get ready, a blonde commander lifts his hand. Someone behind a curtain in another area of the facility notes they are doing this for Xiaofeng. Still mourning his destiny, Dongwu suddenly remembers why he misses that particular girl so greatly. She seemed to really like him. She had promise. Xiaofeng is shown murmuring that although Dongwu's body isn't with her, she feels they'll meet again soon. But Dongwu sees cynically that she is most likely already with another man raising 5 children, destined to be a loser. A band of robbers ambushes him at that point, doing 100 damage. Dongwu yells at them, "Didn't you eat sensibly? Just chop my head off already." Confused, the bandits whisper about what type of crazy they are handling. Dongwu, demoralized, questions why nobody could kill him in meantime. Dongwu wakes suddenly and calls for someone to kill him. Shaking his head, he mumbles that lately he has been dreaming too much. When Meyer comes in to welcome him back, Her Majesty has convened an emergency military conference. Dongwu's Sagravi tracks her as the scene moves to the conference. An enormous human army is marching toward their city, Bingbi tells the generals. Comprising around 10,000 troops, the onslaught will come earlier than anticipated. She says this is the reason she called the most influential Yun generals to go over strategy. 10 years ago was their last encounter with a fight of this scope. They hardly made it. Huan remembers how they killed the human leader and used guerrilla methods to survive that attack. That alone explains why the Yun Dominion still exists. He does remind everyone, though, that the previous attack comprised 5,000 men, and the demons hardly made it alive. These days, they are opposing double that count. The might of the demons hasn't changed. They must somehow survive. Their sole choice is to purchase time till reinforcements show up. Turning now to Dongwu, Huan requests his viewpoint on this. Dongwu, though, is merely half listening. His mind is racing. He figures he could ultimately absorb more damage than his passive can heal, if 1,000 men could deal 100 damage every minute. Stated differently, being surrounded by this large force might at last allow him to die. He says, "What a great opportunity," pounding the table. Rising from his chair, he orders they carry the struggle to the people face to face outside the city boundaries. Startled by his proposition, the room goes quiet. The bad man slaps the table, charging Dongwu with carelessness. For the Yun Dominion, this is a life or death moment. How can you talk that disrespectfully? Dongwu responds that it is ludicrous to believe the same approach will succeed against a double army if they barely survived against 5,000 men. Sitting here waiting for reinforcements is the worst thing we could do, he argues. When they return with 20,000 men a few years from now, what will you do? With the fate of the kingdom, who will you trust then? Why not anyone here have the bravery to take charge of their own future? He challenges the room. And what is this stupidity with the demons not becoming more powerful? Have you all lost memory of me? To our military capability, I am the best improvement. Visibly moved, Binji listens closely as whispers among the generals circulate and remarks that this is the first time they have heard a real demon king speak. Huan stops, though, accusing Dongwu of sending thousands of demons heedlessly toward their deaths. Dongwu has never been on a war, he notes, hence he has no concept how harsh it is. Dongwu questions whether Huan truly thinks triumph would come without danger. He criticizes Huan's defeatist attitude and laughs at the thought of depending on antiquated guerrilla techniques. With such mindset, do you truly believe you can win? He inquiry. How can any soldier overlook the most crucial element on the front lines? The winning attitude. Dongwu says boldly to show his dedication. Should we lose this war? Do you have my consent to publicly execute me before everyone? The others just look in astonished silence. The elderly man is obviously emotional. Still, Wu Zhen smiles and remarks he truly knows how to motivate people. Standing, Bingi says, "I see now. General Dongwu will have complete command and get all of our men in this conflict. Rather than doing nothing, we shall open the gates and squarely engage the adversary." Later on at military camp, within one of the tents, Huan speaks with his subordinates. He reminds them of the several conflicts they engaged in against the human army. But this time, the humans are not only more plentiful, they also are significantly more robust. He acknowledges they have little chance of succeeding and won't let the troops who have followed him for decades waste their lives. Stopping to collect his ideas, he yells at his officials. This time, stay in the city when we are summoned to the fight. Refrain from following Dongwu's directions. Should Her Majesty attribute blame to anyone, I will assume complete liability. A few days later, the Sacred Territory's 21st Legion arrives in the Yun Dominion. A human officer notes, through binoculars, the fall of Yun City is at last upon us. Turning to his subordinate, he gives the command to start the circus. The rule is unambiguous. This time, no demon is to be avoided. Missiles fly at the city gates. Spot them on the ramparts. Guards then start using electrical wizardry to intercept the missiles. It appears for a minute that the missiles are harmlessly exploding mid-air. Still, they keep going forward across the magical defenses. One of the demon guards is virtually dead nearly right away. Dongwu, meantime, smiles as he watches from the wall. At last they showed up, he says. From inside the cloud, a mass of robots starts advancing toward the city. Huan gets to Dongwu as the attack starts. Turning now to his men, Huan reminds them of the strategy they explored. Even those officials, though, seem conflicted about which broad guideline they should apply. Seeing the reluctance, Dongwu yells to order everyone to remain inside the city walls. His voice exudes power, and his words make everyone wide-eyed in perplexity. Dongwu says, "This fight belongs just to the king." He leaps off the wall without thinking twice, landing exactly in front of the human army advancing. Confounded by the lone demon confronting them, the human troops stop. Leading the armies, human magician Lu Renji frowns from a distance. "Why have you come by yourself?" he probes, suspicious. Still plenty of demons stationed on the walls. Renji therefore questions if this is some sort of trap. The demon army, meantime, is still confused about why Dongwu issued such a careless directive. From the wall, Huan believes Dongwu has gone insane. He mutters, "Tens of thousands of people live here. How does he intend to handle them by himself?" Dongwu smirkingly stands proudly before the human army. He responds, starting to take off his armor piece by piece. "I have heard people are really strong. Are you all too terrified, or are you going to attack?" The people say nothing, perplexed by his boldness. Turning now to Lu Renji, Dongwu taunts, "In the past I instructed you, didn't I? Not disappoint me now." Renji scowls, clearly agitated. Dongwu understands Renji keeps his provocations even though he despises embarrassing himself. Turning away from the troops, he says, "Oh, I have an itching backup. Anyone would be interested in scratching it?" For Renji, who snaps, yells, "How dare this bastard mock me?" This proves too much. "Kill him." He gives the whole army attack commands. Energy bursts, bullets and arrows pour down on Dongwu. He smiles, glad they are starting to assault seriously. Even Renji pulls his sword, cutting for 150 damage. Dongwu, meanwhile, is still standing apparently untouched by the attack. Though he never invests points in defense, his great level gives him a natural resilience that mostly offsets the attacks. He works fast. The army would have to deal 1,666 damage every second in order to overcome regeneration. They really are nowhere near that. Furious, Dongwu yells at the troops, "What's wrong with you people? Attack naturally already." Uncertain of what to believe of him, the human soldiers stop. Renji gives the second unit commands to join the attack. More robots arrive. One of them is a large one with a laser gun. The cannon discharges a focused beam squarely into Dongwu's chest. Dongwu laughs, pushing them to keep it going. "Come on. Get more hit on me." Huan observes incredulously from the walls. He starts to question whether Dongwu's confidence was unfounded at all. Might it be that he really thought he could win alone from the start? Dongwu is scoring 50 hits per second and at last begins celebrating. He says, "It's been so long since I've seen this beautiful red color," as his health bar declines. Then his passive counteraction turns on. One of the reflected attacks kills his soldier right away by striking her chest directly. Trying to understand what just transpired, the troops start to panic. Gasping for air, an injured officer warns, "This demon isn't normal." Dongwu's counterattack starts once more before he can complete his sentence, killing another soldier. Renji begins to put events together. Something is off. He murmurs, this has to be part of his strategy. He gives the whole army orders to stop attacking right away. Renji remembers a myth the general had told him about an SSS-ranked demon king, a person with great resiliency able to revive the demon race while he lived. History says this monster ought to have perished long ago. Renji wonders and looks at Dongwu. Should that demon king be long dead? Then who is this man? Dongwu keeps screaming at the troops, asking why they halted attacking when their army consists of more than 10,000 men. Still, the troops are merely murmuring among themselves, saying his health has already totally restored. Renji orders his men, "Avoid his provocations. Something is obviously wrong about attacking this individual." Everyone, "Retreat," Renji orders. "Try to reduce the losses." Dongwu is left standing alone with that. Meyer wonders on the wall why the people are pulling back. She orders the Imperial Guard to move forward with her. Standing next to her, Wu Zhen gives the whole demon army orders to follow him. Turning around, Dongwu hears something behind him and finds the whole demon army charging forward. Seeing this, Renji mumbles in shock. Why are those lunatics attacking now while we're attempting to withdraw? To exacerbate things, the humans' powers remain on cooldown. Advancing, the demon army yells that anyone daring into their realm shall be punished. Hyun at last confesses to himself that he is getting too old. He had not understood Dongwu's dependability, someone who really deserved the title of king. He orders his men, listen to me. Starting now, do as General Dongwu orders. This time we will make sure these insects never come back. Raising their rifles, the troops salute and start to advance. Then someone behind Hyun screams, saying, "This is terrible." Hyun circles back and the soldier tells him the human army has misled them. This strike served just as diversion. They arrived in the city already. Within the city of Yun, a bloodbath is under progress. The troops stationed at the eastern entrance have been totally wiped off. The setting changes to anarchy. The chubby demon has already been beheaded. Humans are stomping on Dongwu's green-haired comrade. Startled, Hyun probes, "How is this possible?" The severed head of the fat demon is being carried by the humans throughout the streets. Declaring that demons are useless, one of the invaders charges toward the castle. Only Weiming and Bingi still stand inside the city. Bingi says, "This human is quite strong." He attempts to gain some time while Weiming exhorts her to run away. The blonde human just grinks and says, "Your kingdom has already been utterly devastated. It is time for play now." A fireball strikes the dead humans from behind out of nowhere. Calmly, the blonde man turns around while his friends feverishly attempt to heal using medicines. Arriving first, Hyun says, "You're all horrible." The man with blonde teeth beams. At last he says, "A demon who seems good." Rising, he stretches and says, "Time for some workout." The demons see a purple aura around him right away and realize this one is far more powerful than the other humans. Hyun understands you have to cut things short fast. A lightning bolt strikes the man with blonde head from the heavens. The man changes suddenly into a dragon. This is Berserker mode, in which case power rises by 130% and health by 500%. Somewhere else in the city, the fighting continues. Dongwu sits dejected. He only wanted someone to attack him and at last take his life. It seems like all he gets since reincarnating into this body are hackers and superhuman skills. Dying appears unattainable regardless of his efforts. Dongwu cries and laughs simultaneously, then looks up at the heavens and exclaims, "What do you want from me? Are you truly wanting me to be the Demon King?" Hyun is struck at that instant by a lightning bolt falling from the heavens. Dongwu arrives on scene shocked to discover everyone dead. Why demons and people are battling in the heart of the city, he wonders himself. Then he hears a voice imploring someone to spare his daughter. From the sidelines, Dongwu witnesses a soldier mocking a guy, stating they will kidnap his daughter and he is powerless to stop them. One of the soldiers sporting a cap parodies the father, advising him they will have great fun with his daughter. Laying on the ground, the father calls for them to let her go. One of the troops responds by sneers and stabs the man's hand. The winner eventually takes throne. But he kicked in the face and dragged across the floor before he could finish. Dongwu watches, seeing something is quite wrong. The soldier in the cap notes him and murmurs, "Why is there still a demon alive?" Declaring they have to finish him off, they toss the girl in charge at Dongwu. Dongwu muses over how harsh battle is, where the winner sees everything as they get close. He has already prevented humanity from acting in this manner, nevertheless. He gives one of the soldiers a terrific punch that sends him almost dead down to the ground. Gasping, Dongwu pins him by the neck and the man questions how he lost all his HP from one punch. "This naked beast is spewing what type of stupidity?" he says silently. "Dongwu wants the legion and squad you belong to." The soldier tells us they belong to the 511th squad, the 21st Legion. Dongwu pauses in disbelief. That was his former legion. Dongwu looks to the side and sees one soldier dead as another is being finished off on the ground. He still doesn't know what's occurring. Dongwu mutters as he surveys the damage all around him. "I have been here before. Bombings destroying buildings left and right still shock the metropolis. For Yoon, the circumstances make sense at last. Mom was tortured to death, he hears someone say suddenly, saying at least we still have each other. A father seeks to soothe his daughter. From above, lightning keeps striking to highlight the anarchy below. Dongwoo stands in the rain, observing the dragon fall. His memories start to come back at that exactly. He had attacked a nation called Yoon 6 years ago, and this same demon dragon was the final creature he vanquished. He had almost forgotten everything about it since the triumph had been so simple. Dongwoo now remembers the system and the words it mentioned concerning rebirth. He had been sent back 6 years into the past, not only revived. This insight starts him to doubt. This army is under leadership by who? What went wrong? And his original body is where? The cherished princess of the healthy humans, Jin Mei, watches the developing anarchy in the heavens. She notes Dongwoo was always the only one who stood out and comments the hate between the races is resurfacing. She muses over how battle is only required for defense. Nevertheless, mankind has been utilizing it to propagate unmatched cruelty all around. Dongwoo keeps strolling among the city's ruins, attempting to make sense of it all. To the best of his memory, the 511th Squad possessed excellent discipline and convictions. They had even freed the other demons once they vanquished the demon dragon. Another man steps on Tang Xiao elsewhere in the city. She calls out her mother, who advises her not to worry and to flee. Then Tang Xiao appears to lose consciousness as a blue flame sparks inside her. One of the 511th Squad leaders, Bao Lai, notes this with enjoyment and remarks on the beauty this demon woman exudes. Seeing this, Dongwoo says something quite unforgivable has just happened. The scene opens on a door. Inside, people are celebrating and reporting that the housewife had birth of a healthy child. As the demons outside comment they have never seen him so content, Huan unlocks the door and asks where his son is. Huan softly takes up what seems to be the infant. He pledges to look after the youngster so he may grow up strong and defend the Yoon realm. Reversing time, a golden lightning bolt strikes the dragon across the heavens. Still, Huan fiercely says he will never let trash like them ruin the realm of Yoon. The human warrior opposing him, though, seems unconcerned. Quietly, he says, "For a dragon, you have rather the long health bar. Still, it's time to call this quits." He leaps ahead to Huan, squarely attacking the dragon's head. Golden slashes cut through the air, and it is obvious Huan cannot sustain this attack. One hand still in his pocket, the human arrives with a sure swagger. Realizing this human had been playing with him from the beginning, Huan turns from his dragon form. Nobody here could have a chance against his present power. The human warrior bitterly notes he still doesn't feel fulfilled. He raises his sword ready to finish Huan. But someone stops the assault just as he strikes. Confused, the human looks behind them in amazement and the demons glance back. Dalmu first seemed to have intervened. But no, it's Woojin, here on guard for his father. Woojin says he comes to slay this invader. But Huan chastises Woojin, advising him to quit acting stupidly and realize he has no chance against this opponent. But Woojin asks, "Is that really all you think of me? Do I mean really so little to you?" Woojin remembers a time in his past when a demon asked him which person he most admired. His response came right away: the overall commander guiding the troops into combat. That man came in first. He also recalls proudly handing his father a report card with the highest military aptitude score. Still apparently indifferent, Huan only responded, "I see," then discounted it. Woojin exited the room feeling demoralized. Later, returning to his father as a young man, he declared he had placed top on the army's entry tests. Again, Huan only said, "I went through the same thing when I was young," showing little excitement. Once more, Woojin left feeling dejected. Years later, Woojin told his father he had been ranked lieutenant general. Huan still remained apathetic though, so Woojin said, "Will I never earn your approval?" Looking back in the present, the human warrior strikes me as impressive. Huan advises Woojin to withdraw quickly as he moves forward. alerting him that this is no usual opponent. But Wujin says it makes no difference whose god, devil, or Buddha he is confronting. Everyone who walks in their area has to be put dead. Huan attempts once more to stop his kid, considering Wujin doesn't yet know how strong people can be. But Wujin writes him off. Charging forward, he breaks the human sword and quickly kills 2 men. Now obviously disturbed, the human fighter sees his armor status show shattered. Seeing from a distance, Wei Ming is shocked that Wujin knocked out 2 opponents with 1 attack. Wujin still says nothing, although his presence commands attention. Steeling himself, the human warrior notes that this demon is unlike any others. Yes, he is. Wujin strikes the air with a power radiating quality. The human seems uneasy as Wujin gets ready for an attack, green energy radiating in his hand. It is not, however, merely an attack. This is a change. Wujin turns into a huge purple dragon. Watching in shock, Huan's questions when this happened. His son had outgrown him when? Something comes to me. Huan had taken a time to review his report card and grinned, saying he expected nothing less from his son when Wujin left the room carrying it. But Huan quickly buried his pride and adopted his customary stoic manner as Wujin came back to get the card. All Huan ever wanted was for his son to lead a normal, quiet life. Why Wujin was so preoccupied with enlisting in the military eluded him. Later, Huan was ecstatic when a subordinate told him Wujin had scored first on the military tests. He always believed his son would be very successful. The trouble was that all of this ran counter to Huan's intentions. Every time the name Wujin surfaced, his servant noted that the general's emotions become more difficult to grasp. Then find Huan seated by a tree next to a headstone lost in contemplation. That was the grave of his wife. He pondered why he had developed feelings for someone so closely associated with the perilous road of a soldier. Still, his son was a prodigy, clearly. In the past, Huan oversaw things at home while he fought frontline fights. She had departed too fast, though, and now he wasn't sure how to handle Wujin. His youngster had been supposed to experience a normal life, one of calm and safety from the start. Huan sees he was mistaken back in the present. Wujin blows the dragon's breath. The human fighter tries to protect himself, but the laser blasts directly at him and causes a great explosion. But the man laughs uninjured as the smoke clears. At last he yells, "A monster ready to provide a true challenge." Declaring, "Now let's put on a great performance," the person steps forward. Tossing his blade behind him, he teases that the fun is still to come. But Huan seems afraid. He has seen earlier diagrams of the weapon. It was not a regular sword. Unshakable, Wujin just moves toward the human approaching him. Suddenly, though, Huan launches himself in front of the human in an attempt to alert Wujin about the sword. The human, though, does not pause. He starts striking. Wujin freezes when all behind him vanishes. Huan understood. This was the knife with unlimited cutting power. The whole castle starts to fall apart, and Wujin's arm shows a serious cut. Alarmingly calling out his name are Bing Ni and the elderly neighbor, Huan advances forward and says, "I have been mistaken all this whole time. I should have mentioned it long back. My pride comes from you most especially." Tears running down his cheeks, Wujin watches his father's arm drop to the ground. Huan had suffered. He tells Wujin, nevertheless, that he is sure his son will be a great fighter, maybe the strongest general the demons will ever know, and he smiles through the suffering. That's why Huan says Wujin has to survive. The person facing them has the Abyss Blade, a weapon able to slay even an SS-ranking entity. Should the whole Yun Kingdom come together, they would not be able to fight this enemy. Huan understands he only have one choice left. His trump card, a secret he have carried for decades. He would adopt complete defense to guard the kingdom of Yun. Wujin asks his father to stop right away since he sees his capacity. "Why are you compromising yourself in this way?" he inquired. But Huiner turns on the wall of life. This capacity consumes the user's own life force to form an impenetrable flame barrier. At 10,000 points strengthens his defenses. Huan remembers clutching a small Wu Jin in his arms and reminding him he had to grow up strong and healthy as his talent activates. Huan was ready to give his life to defend the whole kingdom of Yun in order to make it feasible. Wei Ming abruptly leaps forward, snatching Huan by the arm and pushing him back. The human fighter, though, chuckles at their distress. "You are joking, right? Seeking to flee in this manner?" He sneers. "That is just rude." Though the human adds, "I am not happy with this performance yet. I want to see everyone's sadness." But then a voice screams out from behind him, telling him not to rush. "We can't let this guy die so simply," the voice says. It's Lao Tai who walks forward, alleging that the demons have been protecting a demon core this whole time. Now he gives it to the humans in hopes of joining their army. A lightning bolt smashes the ground and the human leader looks to Lao Tai, wondering if this is true. Pointing the blade at Lao Tai's head, he says, "Why should I believe you?" Lao Tai says that the Qian clan has been guarding the demon core for millennia. Even his ancient ancestors served the first demon king. Every demon king, Lao Tai says, has 3 generals by their side. One talented in magic and government, one proficient in fighting, and one a master of military strategy. But Lao Tai continues, "Our clan never relied on such skills to retain our position. All we needed was the demon core. The core," he continues, "is an artifact that houses the spiritual force of the entire demon race. Only the blood of his ancestor could unlock its power, and only his clan could bless someone with its strength." The human leader admits he has heard of the demon core and accepts its great power. But he asks, "Why have you handed this to me? Do you think I'm an idiot?" Suddenly, Lao Tai's demeanor changes. He bows his head, apologizing. "I'm too weak," he acknowledges. "All I want is to keep living." The cube-shaped core rolls across the ground as Lao Tai acknowledges that he has no potential. If he tried to use the core himself, he would die. Furthermore, the status of his family within the demon species has been deteriorating, and that's why he wants a new place among the humans. Mingdi lunges forward, shouting at her uncle, "Have you gone insane? That man has slaughtered countless of our people." She gestures to the human leader, reminding Lao Tai that this exact man beheaded his brother. The blonde human peers at the severed head nearby and nonchalantly kicks it toward Lao Tai. The head lands at his feet. Smirking, Lao Tai remarks, "That fool deserves it. Who told him to provoke someone stronger than him?" Understanding the difference in power is the cornerstone of nature. Humans or demons, it doesn't matter. Turning to the human leader, Lao Tai asks, "Nam, you agree?" The human smiles, amused by the betrayal. "Interesting," he says. "You genuinely trusted me with something so vital. Since you're so eager, I'll accept it." But suddenly, Lao Tai's expression transforms again. He covers his mouth, saying something under his breath. "Prepare yourselves," he says. "Protect the demon ruler." Suddenly, Wei Ming slips up behind Huan and activates a life core destruction ability. Bingi looks confused as a green circle forms around them. Lao Tai then triggers the demonic core, splashing blood over it. The core begins to open while the naive fool asks what's happening. The demon smiles, claiming his people has been waiting for this moment for generations. This was something only he could do. For years, they had been receiving favors from the demon race without a way to return them. Man, the place is exploding. Everything starts to get carried away, but happily, everyone is inside the dual barrier within the main barrier. The energy continues flowing over the city, destroying all the soldiers. From a distance, Meyer asks what's going on. In the skies, once again, a golden lightning bolt appears as rain pours down. It strikes the ground as the smoke clears. "Man, Lao Tai is all burned up," he explains. "Sadly, he used up all the power he had." But that was barely 1% of the demonic core. While Jin helps his father, Lao Tai falls to the ground, claiming he feels disappointed. The class's dragon, Gaeta, has been summoned, using its absolute defensive ability to block all damage for 30 seconds. It gives out a roar and the human remains unscathed, indicating they had made the wrong choice. Using the trump card without knowing the cards he had hidden was unwise. He then approaches near the fallen Lao Tai, who's clutching the cube. As he tries to grab it, a lightning bolt strikes, severing his hand. The blond man asks if he's willing to face the repercussions. Holding the cube, he adds he never expected to find something like this in such an inconsequential spot. No wonder it was the birthplace of the Demon King. He tucks the cube into his shirt and says it's time to get back on track. But the dragon hesitates. The human asks whether it doesn't want to kill its own kind. Suddenly, a bizarre robot attached to its neck sinks its claws in. The creature begins writhing in distress and suddenly changes expression. It charges at Wei Ming, who prepares a shield. He orders everyone to guard the girl, but she believes they should focus about saving themselves. The blond man stands still and says, dealing with demons is usually like this. He evaporates in a whirl and strikes Wei Ming, stating dealing with people is always bothersome. His hand was stuck in the old guy when suddenly Hua Wen appears alongside him. He tries to deliver a blow, but another man grabs his arm. This skill allows him understand his opponent's traits after battling them. Hua Wen possessed roughly 1,400 strength and 1,500 vitality. The blond man remarks that these two highest traits must be what Hua Wen is most proud of. What a tragedy, as they were way too low, and he was going to demolish them. He bends Hua Wen's arm, contorting him. As he throws the poor guy to the ground, a green piddle appears in front of them. Wu Jin comes from it, ready to fight. But the blond man seems cool, vanishing just in time and reappearing behind Wu Jin, scrutinizing again. Wu Jin, on the other hand, had 2,700 in characteristics. The blond man says it's impressive. Wu Jin had the ability to become a demon king, but it was a pity he'd die here. Yet it was apparent that having over 2,000 speed was astounding. In a second, he arrives in front of Wu Jin, declaring he must be the fastest demon in the area. He unleashes a strong kick, sending Wu Jin flying. Man, another one bleeding out. He steps on Wu Jin's leg, stating it's time to strip away the speed he's so proud of. Wu Jin rises in pain as the blond man asks why an ant thinks it can topple a tree. It didn't matter. No one here possessed traits high enough to face him. Lightning begins pounding the earth as everyone stares. A mass of shadows starts to develop. This was an S-rank ability that allowed him to generate replicas of himself as long as he had enough energy. Slowly, Whamming starts getting up. A hand grabs Benji by the mouth, and the man says he's always wondered, are demons truly that feeble, or why do they even exist? It was then that he began to understand. Man, why? He murdered the kitten. For crying out loud, oh no, someone has to murder this person. Now's the time for our protagonist to show up and slay this son of a. The bastard says he now knows the worth of their existence. Demons existed purely for his entertainment. He lets her tumble to the ground. Benji, utterly devastated yet strong, says there's no more hope. Man, she even takes another kit to the face. At that moment, Huan stands up, declaring this time they had lost. But he alone would meet death head-on. The human praises him, noting that even at the end, the kingdom's protector showed such integrity. However, finishing things like this would be less pleasant. He nods, and Huan hears a scream. Turning around, he discovers Wu Jin immobilized. The father wonders if that isn't his son and says he'll spare Wu Jin's life if Huan kneels. If he does, his son walks free. Wu Jin labels the man a beast, adding his father would never do such a thing. However, the blond man keeps laughing, suggesting they should enjoy their one and only chance. Huan hesitates for a second and then falls to his knees, asking with the man to uphold his pledge. His son just stands there, watching. The blond man then asks Wu Jin if he doesn't wish to save his father, offering him the same option. But Wu Jin yells, urging him to quit playing games with this. The man simply smiles and throws a strike straight to Huan's chest. As Huan begins to fall, he suffers a slash to one arm and to the other. Man, how many cuts is he going to give him? Huan sinks to his knees now, asking for the fight to cease. In the background, Bingyu watches everything, sobbing. The blonde man then explains that now that both of them are kneeling, he's in a bad place since he doesn't know which one to murder. That's when Huan locks eyes with him, senses something, and throws himself onto the sword. Wu Jin shouts, but his father just states that with this, choice has been made for him. But the blonde dude isn't happy. He asks to grant Huan permission to act on his own like that. He pulls the sword out, saying Huan disobeyed the rules, and because of that, he's forsaking his promise. The game is about to restart. Wu Jin lunges for him, but gets struck in the chest. I just want to know when Dong Wu will show up. It's been, what? 10 chapters since he disappeared. Suddenly, everyone's hands are chained and are lifted into the air. Man, look at what this guy's done in the past. Someone please murder this guy already. Wu Jin gets smacked in the stomach. The man says he's avoiding all crucial points to ensure they'll feel as much pain as possible. He then beckons for the dragon to approach. Placing the blade on his shoulder, he proclaims it's time for the final celebration. He instructs someone to summon Vice Commander Bao Li, claiming Bao Li must be bored of playing by now. But the guy on the other end of the telephone reacts, stating he's gotten pretty bold. The blonde man wonders who's speaking and where Bao Li is. Someone behind him shouts that Bao Li is right there. He turns around and Dong Wu has finally arrived with his rank as Team of 7. Dong Wu thinks he's seen enough of this situation. He didn't expect the man to descend so low in his drive for power. Dong Wu blames himself for letting things become this bad for the people. But this was something he should have understood. A beast will always be a beast. For all the sins the man has perpetrated, he deserves to be executed slowly. The blonde man scoffs, calling Dong Wu another piece of trash. He leaves from the dragon's side, stating he'll complete this swiftly and is already in front of Dong Wu, smiling. But then he suffers a blow to the face so hard it destroys his glasses, unable to even compute the force. Dong Wu throws him against the wall while the blonde man struggles to understand what just happened. Dong Wu says he doesn't even know where to begin. The man had revolted against the army's standards, mistreated the ladies of this city, and murdered his buddies. But Dong Wu would guarantee he paid for every one of his sins. Confused, the blonde man asks what he's talking about. Behind him, Bao Li is crawling, stating there's something extremely wrong with this demon. Since the first time they met, this demon looked way too involved with human concerns. The story swings back to now long ago in Yun City, ravaged by conflict. Bao Li tells the ice puppet not to kill the small girl. But first, he meant to enjoy the charming woman. Qian Xiao was merely watching her mother. The man licked his lips and asked if it wasn't a problem for the daughter to watch this. But then abruptly there was an impact and shards of ice shot toward him. Dong Wu had smashed one of the puppets. The man demanded to know why so many low-level demons were interfering with his objectives. He cast a spell, summoning a high-ranking puppet in front of him. The man said this creature shared half his blood and half his might. But before he could finish speaking, Dong Wu had already charged and punched through it. There wasn't even time for the man to be stunned because a smack had already fallen on his cheek. By killing another opponent of the human world, Dong Wu got 500,000 experience points. Additionally, he developed a copying ability that allowed him to swap one of his skills with one from someone he murdered. Dong Wu then tells the man it's time to come clean. He wants to know what happened to his soldiers. The previous army captain was named Zhifeng Liao. They used a banquet as an occasion to execute their plan. The plan comprised using the vice captain to kill Zhifeng Liao. But even after torturing the victim, he refused to disclose the commander. When others arrived to witness the spectacle, the vice captain simply mentioned Zhifeng Liao was there. He flew with a dagger as soon as they neared. He narrowly managed to save Huan, but this event branded him as a traitor to the troops. With that, they launched an effort to oust him. With most of the troops on their side, it was extremely easy. It was also during this period that they obtained the sword. With his father's power, Xin Jibiao became the supreme commander. Back in the present, Bao Li queries why the boy is so interested in all this. Dong Wu just asks why no one fought or questioned anything. Bao Li adds that they already knew who might resist, and those individuals were sacrificed before anything started. It was the fault of people who were overly devoted to the former Feng Shao. He then says he's told Dong Wu everything he knows and demands to be put down. But instead, Dong Wu lands a strike directly to his groin. Dong Wu begs him to stay quiet as a girl approaches, calling his name. She's brought the armor he had given to Wei Ming, stating that Wei Ming wanted Dong Wu to use it to take the king as far as possible. She adds that she received an odd message and that they seem to have met some problem. Dong Wu equips the whole armor set, uses an ability to make it appear like regular clothes, and starts carrying Bao Li. The demoness tries to warn him that the situation is exceedingly perilous, but he urges her to just take him to Xin Jibiao. Back in the present, Dong Wu slams the ground with a punch. Bao Li still can't understand why Dong Wu is so interested in humanity. Meanwhile, Xin Jibiao begins activating his golden lightning, adding some gear and analysis glasses. The glasses suggest that Dong Wu has above 4,100 strength. However, Xin Jibiao remains confident, arguing that aside from strength, the rest of Dong Wu's traits are junk. In terms of speed, Dong Wu has less than half his own. Xin Jibiao unleashes another attack with his horns, sure that Dong Wu only dodge lasts high by sheer chance. But luck doesn't continue forever. Just as the clone is ready to land its attack, Dong Wu vanishes and punches one of them in the face, sending it flying. Jibiao can't fathom how Dong Wu is faster with lower characteristics. Obviously, the real Jibiao is lurking behind the dragon, sure that based on what he's seen with the glasses, it's impossible for Dong Wu to win. The difficulty is that the clones theoretically share attributes very near to his. Not to mention, Dong Wu's opportunity traits look to be nil. Something was plainly amiss. We then see Jibiao's numbers. Over 5,400 strength made possible, of course, by the sword he's carrying. With his additional speed, it should be hard for him to lose. The plan is to attack one more time to figure out what's going on. He prepares a covert strike, but ends up suffering another hit to the face. While the clone gets battered, Jibiao wonders what Dong Wu is hiding. Dong Wu observes that Jibiao appears unduly confident for someone so weak. The reason Jibiao can't figure it out is that Dong Wu possesses the title of Demon King. All of his traits are tripled but can't be noticed. Still, Jibiao launches another sequence of lightning bolts, refusing to believe it. But Dong Wu keeps ducking, landing a punch to the ribs, a kick to the stomach, and another hard strike to the face. The fool falls to the ground, and Dong Wu glances to the side. Jibiao stops and mutters that Dong Wu can't possibly be this fast. But Dong Wu is right behind him, smashing him into the ground. Realizing he can't win in a straight combat, Jibiao threatens Dong Wu, saying he has his chief's life in his hands. If Dong Wu isn't careful, she'll die at any minute. Wu Jin, standing nearby, wonders whether that's his solution when he can't beat his enemy. Jibiao ignores him, placing a chain around her neck. But Dong Wu goes ahead calmly, stating the strategy is outmoded. Jibiao cries that if Dong Wu takes another step, everyone there would perish. He tightens the chain, suffocating Wu Jin and everyone else bound. Turning to Dong Wu, Jibiao asks whether he isn't meant to be a capable demon. He twists the chain harder, claiming that in the end, Dong Wu is only a person. Even if Dong Wu saves one of them, he'll kill the other. The choice is his. Dong Wu clenches his fists and rushes toward him. Jibiao is astonished that Dong Wu is really coming at him. Wu Jin tells Dong Wu to save the demon ruler. Dong Wu keeps advancing and shoves his fingers into the clone's face, sending it crashing to the ground like rubbish. Wu Jin questions why Dong Wu saved him instead of Benji. But Dong Wu begs him to take another look, stressing that he wasn't going to preserve just one. He had taken Bao Li's puppet manufacturing talent and utilized it to save her. He then directs the golem to defend everyone there. They start liberating everyone while Bao Li stammers. questioning how this is possible. That was his ability. When did Dongwu learn it? Suddenly, one of Zhibiao's clones attacks the puppet from behind, but the puppet effortlessly lands a punch, sending it crashing to the ground. It's revealed that this is how Dongwu defeated Bao Li and decided to replicate his skill. Zhibiao knows that Dongwu possessing this skill is all his fault. Strangely, this skill came from the demon caves. While powerful, it has two disadvantages. First, it requires water nearby to activate. Second, producing the golem costs a substantial amount of blood. If the golem is as strong as Dongwu, he must have spent practically all of his blood. This suggests the genuine Dongwu is currently weak. Zhibiao calls for the captain to disregard the golems and attack the original body. He feels Dongwu's bluffing and one hit could end everything. Dongwu remains still and quiet. The onslaught once more originates behind. The hit appears to land precisely, and Zhibiao even celebrates, declaring he has at last won. Dongwu merely advises him, though, to keep on. Zhibiao, perplexed, turns back and queries how Dongwu is still alive when he was about dead. Zhibiao strikes yet before Dongwu can reply. Still, each blow only causes between 100 and 300 damage. Dongwu asks simply whether this is the best Zhibiao can produce. Zhibiao once more engages his capacity for analysis. At that, he discovers Dongwu's health bar still full. Worse still, his worries are least about health and status bars. This lad has a quite distinct atmosphere, which is quite weird. Pulling out a large blue sword, Dongwu asks Zhibiao whether he has yet utilized all of his attacks. Realizing he would really die today if he doesn't come up with a solution, Zhibiao starts to freak. The dragon stomps on the ground, then shoots upward like lightning suddenly. Thanking the heavens for being on his side, Zhibiao seems to get comfort. Enough lightning in the heavens would enable him to keep producing endless clones. Dongwu, however, turns on the Blood Ice Golem ability once more, declaring he will be leaving those clones to the golems. The golems monitor the damaged group, and it is obvious that Kun lost his arms. Lying on the ground, Bolai murmurs that he ought to have understood from the minute Dongwu showed up why he was so fascinated in people. He questions Dongwu's depth of knowledge of the army and the commander. Dongwu replies that in a storm, other factors exist than lightning. Declaring he now has a constant water source, he starts calling more golems. Using this legion would prove otherwise, even if Zhibiao thinks Dongwu's stats are worse. Still, while the clones fight, the army is the dragon. Inquiring about why the creature isn't moving, Zhibiao examines it. Dongwu then materializes next him, unleashing a celestial metamorphosis in his hand and throwing yet another punch to Zhibiao's face. Dongwu tells him it's been long enough, but this conflict is almost over. Zhibiao once more substitutes himself to survive. He now sees he cannot win in a frontal confrontation. He is beginning, nonetheless, to appreciate the boy's aptitude. Dongwu loses blood every attack, although he has very great regeneration. Zhibiao intends to make advantage of the energy storage capability of his SSS-ranked weapon. Dongwu may be split in half with one strike once it is totally charged. He only needs to keep stalling for as long as feasible. Then one of the ice clones slinks from behind and stabs him in the chest. Zhibiao comes in agony and turns on his power. He apparently becomes lightning itself, leaping from one clone to another and fleeing. Still, his major body had already suffered harm. Zhibiao asserts, amusingly, that he can swap places with his clones after absorbing the hit, therefore avoiding danger. Sure, buddy, you look to be in trouble. Seemingly with an IQ of 16, Bao Lai at last starts to grasp the captain's intentions. The golems are constrained by time, hence he is sure the captain will prevail. Smoking, Zhibiao says he will never kill Dongwu regardless of what he does. Dongwu freezes a clone at that point and queries, "Who said I'm trying to kill this guy? This man clearly has to pay for his misdeeds with the slowest death possible." Remembering how, as a little child, he likewise stated he didn't want things to die too readily, Zhibiao still demands his freedom. every clone still resides within him, Dongwu informs him. This causes the suffering the clones go through always to come back to him. Weary, Zhibiao wonders how Dongwu knows this. Dongwu starts enumerating every offense Zhibiao has done, saying none of them could be settled with a straightforward death. When he crushes a clone's head, Zhibiao writhes in pain. The ice creatures keep separating the remaining clones. Dongwu cuts through another and says Zhibiao will experience every one of these strikes. He has to pay for every suffering he caused on other people. Lying on the ground, Bao Lai comes to see that the main issue today is the captain's capacity. From the suffering, Zhibiao is beginning to go insane. Still, Zhibiao is assured since he just needs to complete charging the sword. Nearly ready, at last, the weapon runs full charge. He calls it high and says the whole demon clan will be wiped off with this assault. The golden light launches skyward. Then we come upon a tiny creature hopping between forest branches. It glances about and hides under some grass. A soldier walks by, asking whether anyone has seen the lightning dragon. Perched on a tree, the creature observes them go past. Approaches a younger Dongwu, it gets startled. The beast aims to attack, but Dongwu only gives some food. He claims that since the fight between humans and demons is depriving so many of food, he dislikes it. He only wants for it to stop. Zhibiao says back in the present that this marks Dongwu's end. This will be the onslaught wiping off the whole demon clan. Watching the two of them is the dragon. Dongwu says return while stretching his hand forward. The blond man is primed for the last blow. The whole sword broke apart all at sudden. It soared into the air and then reassembled right in Dongwu's grasp. Now it's at last back with its proper owner, he remarked. The illiterate Zhibiao was completely bewildered. Everything he had gone through served to equip this weapon. What then occurred? Dongwu just praised him for assisting in sword recharging. Rising the sword as he neared Zhibiao, he spun about. The clones started to fade, and around them a sphere of energy developed. The power was so great that the heavens cleared as well. From the ground, Bao Lai whispered he had always known it was him. The dragon turned to Dongwu and remarked, "Now you're really back. Man was the small creature from the woodland, the same monster today. See how similar our lad is both as a human and as a demon." Still utterly perplexed by what was happening was Zhibiao. The dark clouds and energy faded as most of the clones started to vanish. Zhibiao was kneeling surrounded by every kind of life. Dongwu said the conflict was done when the sword stopped next him. 2 years passed, we returned to the sacred kingdom. One asked whether they witnessed the monster fall. Many, Dongwu responded, urging to bring it back. Though, trust me, the names in the descriptions seemed all muddled up. Saying she looked like a dog, he inquired whether she was offended about carrying the demon in her mouth. Then he mentioned he knew exactly what the devil liked to be referred as. Calling it his friend, he patted its back. The thunder dragon Gita still carried the item around its neck back in the present. Under it, Zhibiao commanded the dragon to guard Dongwu. Dongwu told him to quit. This place lacked further lightning to replenish. Zhibiao could fight all he wanted, but nowhere to flee was left. Knowing the dragon possessed more than 10,000 speed, the blond man felt confident nonetheless. Nobody could find him, in his opinion either. Threatening to detonate the dragon otherwise, he pressed the button ordering it to get him. Gita appeared to object, but she was obviously crying. I had never seen a dragon sporting tears running down its cheeks before. Furious after learning those bastards had placed explosives within Dongwu, running for the dragon, Zhibiao managed to ascend upon its head. Bao Lai begged to be taken along, but he was naturally passed over as the dragon swooped off. Zhibiao murmured to himself that it was well worth it. He was still departing at last carrying the mystical core. Weiming said that Zhibiao could get away at this rate. Looking at Dongwu, Wuming said something seemed to be on his mind. Dongwu was contemplating quitting. He believed it impossible to capture Zhibiao without endangering Gita's life. This demoralized him until he heard a voice within his skull. Someone assured him they saw him. There was no reason for doubt since the dragon spoke to him saying he trusted him. Dongwu asked Zhibiao if he recalled the game they used to play as she battled to keep onto the dragon. Then it surged to bite Zhibiao, snatching him mid-air. The dragon told Dongwu it was his turn now, Zhibiao in mouth. It turned back toward Dongwu, who was getting ready with his sword and stealing his demeanor. Still in the maw of the dragon, Zhibiao screamed not to accuse him. Declaring at least he would die there, he turned on the self-destruct device. The self-destruct countdown ticked from 83% to 90%. Dongwu saw as it came to 97%. With a perfect slash at 99.5%, he destroyed the gadget all around the dragon's neck. The dragon landed quite gently. Fear still froze the demons. Still struggling to understand why things was going so badly was the Fu Bao Lai. Zhibiao lay pool of blood as the smoke dispersed. Dongwu walked slowly in front of me. Zhibiao started to ask for pity. Man would not do much good thinking he was missing half his body and spare him. Inquiring why, the man scrawled at the ground. Why must he have been totally destroyed? Dongwu just closed his eyes and stated he should have known this would happen from the time Zhibiao turned on him. Zhibiao asked, perplexed, what betrayal Dongwu was referring about. Not even known to each other. Dongwu chose not to clarify though. He raised the blade and advised Zhibiao to better kneel and ask for pardon when he met Yunha. Zhibiao identified him as Xiaofeng Liao at last seconds. Still, it was too late since his face was sliced. It makes sense now. Xiaofeng Liao was the man they turned on and framed in this lifetime. His former life's protagonist was him, but right now he is in the past. Man, things got complicated. Worse still for Zhibiao, who committed each atrocity with a slash. The man looked like sashimi, cut up. Dongwu kept punishing Zhibiao for further transgressions, hence I assumed he would be delivering the last blow. Eventually, execution. Dongwu made 1 billion additional cuts for every bit Zhibiao had done, and currently it's finished. Watching all this, Baolai said he was now positive this monster belonged among them. And Xiaofeng Liao had never turned away from his studies. Now it is clear that they made Xiaofeng Liao desert and betrayed him in this lifetime. The narrative had shifted, and he now had 2.2 million experience points. Then, though, there is a plot turnoff. The scene moves to a girl staring at a man inside a capsule. She claims that now things were finished. She said that apparently he had gotten back the weapon, the tools, and the monster. The woman vanished from sight. Man, the chick is making effort and she is rather eager. The scene then moves to the human base, where someone reports getting an army message. Zhibiao had sacrificed himself. Unit 511 had been utterly defeated. Zhibiao's father is Xin Cheng of the Divine Legion, that elderly man there. The most Chinese name I have ever come across in my life must be Xin Cheng. When the elderly guy asks whether they discovered the body and the people respond regretfully not. Then he advises to arrange an empty coffin national funeral. Everyone was supposed to get the message. His kid had died honorably in the battlefield. He keeps fishing while someone behind him is closing their fists. The sister of Zunling Zhibiao claims that damned Yun Kingdom. She would make sure everyone residing there was dead. The scenario then moves to a fairly Arabian city. Within the Wind Kingdom's palace, inquiring whether His Majesty has selected a delegate, a horned person says this letter comes from the Conference of Alliances, called Mo Fang. This man rules the Wind Kingdom. He is aware that for small countries like his, this Conference of Alliances serves as only a public disgrace. Then he claims that every time his city sends people few returns and that it can hardly generate rank of abilities. The man simply asks whether he has already made decisions, though, entirely discounting this. The man starts to change, and Mo Fang requests 2 days to decide on the persons. Well, dude, now the decision is taken. He was already dead with the man stating as such. The scene then moves to the Yun Kingdom and features someone speaking with Binji. Clearly someone is also delivering the supposed Conference of Alliances letter. The messenger reports they have already sent some assistance, but they never thought the Yun Kingdom would be invaded in this manner. Though hurt, Bingi says she values the help they will provide. The demoness thanks her back, stating she is eager to know who will be the Alliance representatives this year. After all, this is the largest annual celebration of the whole demon race. We next come on to a building site. Someone expands their influence, and man, the entire structure is coming together. Tian Xiao here is working hard, until someone approaches and advises him to relax since the general wants to see him. That Lao Tai man is man. The man at least is alive. Not exactly, he has his horns banded. He said he wasn't expecting a child to be helpful. Tian Xiao, however, only says that since they also assisted his mother, it's the proper thing to do. Apparently Lao Tai lost one of his hearts following a commitment his brother had made, and Tian Xiao's mother ended up with it. He tells the lad that although demons or humans have both good and terrible people, what he did is right. Karma, however, sees no racial variations. Declaring he promises never to attack this land again, Lao Tai requests to be forgiven. Too late, pal, though, you started the dog's dinner. Lao Tai says there's no reason to worry about his death, and apologizes for the lies his brother created. Tian Xiao argues, nonetheless, that is untrue. Although his brother was somewhat frightening, he remembers rather clearly how he behaved during the invasion of the city. The huge man instructed the young lad to sprint. He did not want his body to be wasted. The heart had already been taken out. The issue was that the bastard showed up just in middle of their escape. That's when the large figure advised him to have the heart he would be delivering to his mother and vanish from that spot. He promised to stay at least to give him some time. Tian Xiao informs Lao Tai that in his last hours his brother was a savager. Lao Ti chuckles after silence for a second, saying he never understood anything. He then starts to cry. Ultimately, his brother had not changed all that much from their early years. On top of the walls, Wemming informs Dong Hua he is now the most powerful man in the Yun Kingdom. And for that, the three generals would decide unanimously on the rarest relic to present him. That would not only help him to reach level S, but also provide superhuman ability. Dong Hua advises them to hold it, though, particularly considering he was getting ready to leave this town. Confused, Wemming wonders why he would be laughing about this. Dong Hua, meantime, believes he understood their reaction would be like this. He wants to find a path to become human once more as fast as feasible. He worries still about Howdy and her safety. They were demons. He was human after all. He could not keep growing close and experiencing emotions. He is aware that dying is becoming more difficult and certain the demons will not assist him in this regard. The dragon suddenly advises him to unwind since Princess Hao is secure for now. And he would constantly be at his side, so he wouldn't be leaving there alone either. Dong Hua says it's always pleasant to have him around and thanks him. Then Gaida probes Dong Hua about his intended destination. Wemming constantly asking about his plans in meantime. The dragon only extends its wings and flies off, though. Wujin is laying in bed next to his father in another area of the city. He wonders whether his father knows when the second prosthetic arm will come. Xu Wen responds that 3 times today he already asked that. Xu Wen wonders if that person is the reason his son is so anxious. Wujin orders his father to relax and brushes off him. He should have known it much earlier, from the moment he observed that man at the court and following what he did in the cave. That man hardly fit a demon at all. He was of the race Wujin detested most. The system window in another section of the mountains shows the same message. Death is the only way one can become human once more. Regretfully, Dong Hua says Gaida. That's the only response regardless of how many times he tries. The issue is that nobody could kill him with his present strength and skills. It is quite impossible. He must locate someone above rank S with instantaneous killing power. But even in his former existence, the Demon Tower was the only place he came across something like that. He tells Gaida there is one answer, but he has to keep in mind he is merely a contracted beast. He feels terrible thinking about a means to assist in killing his master. A boulder at the top of the mountain starts to fall suddenly, right for Dong Hua's head, but Gaida slices it easily. Sadly, Gaida explains, as a contracted beast, Dong Hua will defend him no matter what. Suddenly, a bear shows up attacking Donghua, but it is blasted with a laser to the face. Saying he's not doing this on purpose, the dragon apologies. Night falls. The bear turns into food. Now full, Donghua grabs his sword and advises the dragon it would be better for him to recharge as well. He cuts, therefore activating a dimensional space. Donghua starts disassembling the sword as they are about to enter. They will travel east in pursuit of the demon tower at evening, he claims. It's the only choice he has, even though it's a vague goal. And in such situation, what else is he able to accomplish? Then he detects someone approaching. Placing the blade to his neck, the person inquires as to if the attractive man intends to go without bidding farewell. It's Woojin, who claims that should the actual hero be fleeing, Yoon's area is celebrating. Why Woojin isn't drinking there instead of coming here, Donghua wonders. Woojin, however, dismisses him and insists on knowing Donghua's actual intent for visiting the Yoon kingdom. Though the protagonist notes Woojin's wrath, he also understands he has no intention of murdering him. Woojin keeps pressing, curious about his relationship to humans and the reasons behind his knowledge about them. Why did that human weapon fly into his palm, and why does the thunder dragon follow him? Donghua grabs his sword and exposes that he is human. He throws Woojin's arm aside and says it's a tragedy, but Woojin can't murder him now. After all, dying wouldn't be a horrible thing for him. Woojin says that he's noticed Donghua was always wanting death and doesn't understand why. From the difficulty with his father to the happenings in the cave, Woojin doesn't grasp why Donghua wants this. Donghua confesses that dying is the only way for him to return to being human, which he originally was, but, weirdly, he ended himself in this demon body. Woojin then questions why Donghua killed that human commander if he didn't mean to save anyone. He could have just died at the hands of that man and thus returned to being human. Donghua most likely would have gotten what he wanted, and a human army would have prevailed. Woojin makes a valid point. Donghua responds, though, that it's about his beliefs rather than the side he's now on. Something as terrible as that intolerable to him. Woojin believes Donghua's neck is released by humans who continuously bring death and damage to their land and even murdered his mother. He therefore despises people and thinks they all have right to die. Donghua is also deserving of death. Still, deep down he truly wished Donghua remained a devil. Donghua is told by the dragon that he can sense Woojin looking for some solace, but Donghua stays frigid, just stating he is leaving. Donghua replies the dragon asks whether he is truly not going to say anything, that he cannot establish any relationships. Woojin then tells them that among the 18 demon nations, the Alliance tournament, the most crucial competition, is scheduled for a week. A fight where every country must send 2 demons. Clearly, the strongest will show up, including several S-class demons. This would be the ideal chance if Donghua really wanted to die that much. He should not undervalue the whole demon race, even if he is the greatest in the Yoon Kingdom. Donghua is fascinated and wonders whether tournament competitors could actually kill one another. Woojin attests to the fact that the participants carry pride for their country, so they have no death anxiety. Of course, Yoon's present condition makes no one want to endanger their life. The demon ruler so let both of them take part. Woojin would be assisting Donghua in developing a death plan. The demon king, nevertheless, couldn't let anyone else murder him. When the moment came, only Woojin could lay the last blow. Donghua remained mute but nodded right away. It was just what he had been yearning. Woojin clarified that 18 kingdoms comprised the demon coalition. According to legend, the powers of the world originated in enigmatic areas. Today, 2 of them were under demon dominion. 2 goals of the alliance meeting were to ascertain the leader of the whole demon alliance and bring all the leaders to one location. Held once every 3 years, the approach for this was the competition. The realm of demons was just. The strongest person ruled supremely. The demon race could be led just by the winner of the last combat. Clearly, though, it was also a venue for the strong kingdoms to display their might. Bingby said the tournament's beauty had lost appeal. Now, every kingdom that took part was rife with plans, only there for their own benefit. They sent the most merciless demons and applied the lowest techniques in order to assure triumph. So much so that just 5 of the 36 competitors made it through the last event. Naturally, none of the demons dispatched from the nascent country returned alive. She stated they had time to back out. She might pen a note guaranteeing their absence from participation. Still, looking revealed the 2 had vanished already. Not good, Bingby. They were already gone. Looking out the airship's glass, Danmu was first viewing the flame country. Though the airship was futuristic, the dragon was carrying it, therefore harmonizing nature with technology. Next we come upon Beiji, the capital of the Flame City. Bingby noted the changes the location has seen in a few years. She advised them to check in fast as evening's banquet was scheduled. Still, once more the 2 had vanished. The unusual fruits around piqued Danmu's curiosity. Woojin, meantime, vowed to himself he would give the last blow. Danmu was more fascinated in mythical fruits while Woojin was staring at a shop. The salesman said the fruit had instantaneous recovery properties and was grown in demonic lands. Watermelon was a somewhat rare item. On the other side, Woojin was astounded that a street shop had so many ranking weapons when the fledgling kingdom had to create special weaponry using covert factories. The merchant added in response on the nascent kingdom, remarking that it was nowhere like the Flaming Kingdom. The Flame Kingdom possessed far more land, resources, power, and economic might. Was Danmu come to observe the tournament? He questioned. Danmu was going to say yes, but before he could reply, a girl near him started to scream. Among Yu Kingdom's rivals was this one. Young Kingdom adds in. Remember, Shanglin said the Yu Kingdom had to have ran out of talent if they were sending someone like him. Woojin was enraged, but the girl merely turned to the merchant and told him to pack every ranked item and forward them to the Ixinbala Hotel. She gave him the money and remarked she was eager to see if the Yu Kingdom might surprise anybody this year. If they were different from the past, it would be great as her sole enemy was her own kingdom. Woojin judged the female to be obviously a ranking demon. He informed Binji later on in the hotel that the folks in this area were far too haughty. She answered that was to be expected. Nobody would be pleasant just before a championship. Actually, most kingdoms had similar strength when these events originally started. Still, the Flame Kingdom, Yu Kingdom, and Late Kingdom maintained gaining might over time. And as is common sense, the strong get stronger. Particularly considering that these 3 kingdoms virtually always alternated successes among themselves. The competition's reward was a stone that let a demon ascend to rank S, gaining the authority to exploit the Alliance's mines. The winner also took command of the 18 forces. Gongwu appeared fascinated by something. Mamie claimed they reached to the highest pride of the whole demon race. Someone emerged behind them just then. Inquiring about the Changbala Hotel, a man pushing a wheelchair girl questioned Shanglin said she had seen those strange people once more purchasing watermelons. Already losing his cool, Woojin was poised to strike her. But reminding him the tournament was about to start, Bingyi gently advised him not to fall for the trap. Dongwu was chatting with some persons claiming to be from the Mist Kingdom at the same time. Dongwu cautioned them against treating him lightly should they run against him in the tournament. Seeing this, Binji advised them head out fast. She immediately felt an unusual sensation behind her and her rucksack flying off though. Dongwu seemed not really bothered, wondering where the invisible burglar may have gone. But the man from the Mist Kingdom moved forward to warn Dongwu about watching his sister. Closing his eyes, he radiated blue, opened his arms, and called energy behind him. They suddenly were in an ocean of vitality. He opened his eyes and said, "Found them." He froze the foot of the phantom burglar and stretched his palm, releasing an ice attack. Woojin was there in front of the burglar as soon as he looked up, saying that such behavior ought to be punished severely. The man straight out says he comes from the destroyed nation and just begs not to be turned over to the guards. Dongwoo, meantime, compliments the lad on his quick identification of the phantom burglar. Bingji also praises him and inquires as to his current rank S. Though he's aiming toward it, the youngster Lacey says the Mist Kingdom has never had a ranks demon. The action moves inside the hotel, where they all arrive. They are registering, while a guard says seemingly everyone has come. Not far by, a white suit man says it's time for the preliminaries to start. People remark on the packed nature of the venue today as they go around the hallways. Bingji notes, looking at the clock, they would miss the feast at this pace. Dongwoo wonders why they sent a wheelchair user to compete as he is walking. When it comes time finally, Bingji calls the Mist group over and orders them to move forward. Curious why their paperwork aren't already in hand, the receptionist requests them. Lacey, rather ashamed, turns over the paperwork and asks whether she is referring to them. Then everyone begins murmuring about someone approaching. A man lounging in a chair remarks that every time he shows up, it's a spectacle. Now, who is this? Oh, now here arrives Lin and Lai from the Lei Kingdom. The man was the most famous actor. Supposedly, they dispatched a wheelchair user solely to die in battle. Alternatively, ignore her austere manner as she speaks. One of the guards walks up to the queue as they arrive and commands everyone to clear path. The guard even orders Lacey to clear the path. Lacey answers nothing, and the guard tosses him aside. The girl yells out to him but feels a hand on her shoulder. Dongwoo is staring intently. The receptionist tells Lin Lai his mother can completely skip registering. Lin Lai responds, instructing his brothers to accompany his mother through check-in. Then, out of nowhere, Dongwoo strikes him. Dongwoo grabs Lacey's sister and straightens her back in line, saying they will go first as he falls into the guard's arms. Totally perplexed, the receptionist doesn't know what to do. The man in the white suit, meantime, is looking forward a performance. Dongwoo has run a risk in acquiring the most strong of all demons, Lin Lai, so. Lin Li wonders whether he was indeed pushed. Approaching Dongwoo, he remarks on his bravery. Dongwoo, however, entirely overlooks him and just asks the receptionist whether there is a problem with the paperwork. Lin Li asks Dongwoo whether he cannot hear him speaking by resting a hand on his shoulder. Lin Lai is clearly applying a great force, yet nothing is occurring. Wu Zhen whispers Dongwoo ought to cut his hand off. Lin Li pauses momentarily and laughs in the Joker style. Even Wu Zhen senses the strain. Now eager, Lin Lai comments he respects Dongwoo's bravery. He is eager to see his powers since he found them amazing. Suddenly, though, someone raises a hand requesting Mr. Lin not to do this since he would be disqualified. Declared as a super VIP, this short demon says Lin Lai doesn't even need to be in the common registration area. Lin Lai need not even worry about these poor folks. He should already be in the opulent suites. Common quarters are essentially for lesser kingdoms, after all. Saying he understands, Lin Lai withdraws and bids goodbye to the two, declaring the rivalry waits. Wu Zhen approaches the receptionist inquiring about their waiting times. Rising up to claim he will handle it is a demon from a Klingo. He tells Lacey the girl next to him isn't authorized to check in and questions whether her card is valid. Saying it makes no sense as the invitation let him bring a family friend, Lacey objects. The devil writes off him though, saying he has no evidence she is his relative. The runes are almost completely full, he also notes. Dongwoo starts to see how difficult life is for the lower-ranking kingdoms, reminding him that they are invited participants and ought to be treated with respect. Jin takes the demon by the neck. The demon advises him to let go though, advising Jin not to compete and could result in disqualification of their squad. Jin lets him go grudgingly, saying kingdoms like Yoon and the Mist Kingdom shouldn't have joined the alliance should the demon sneers, says their wish to be considered as significant persons is absurd. Binji steps in though, saying everyone there is exaggerating their own self. The devil suddenly bursts in wrath, branding them a bunch of dirty farmers who came just to plunder food and drink. Jin starts lifting the demon by dragging him by the neck after grabbing his mouth. But Binji intervenes, discarding him. Coming here and enjoying everything for free, she says, is a tremendous gift. Still, that does not imply something should be handled differently. Declaring that as the current lord of Yun she will not let her people to be humiliated, she slams the demon to the ground. She was there for the founding of the 18 countries and descended from Liu Yun. What the devil just said now entitles her to provide Mamoru with a like in this video, so enabling him to create more delicious stuff for his audience. I'm out after activating the cheeky little bell.